Welcome to the Big Fat Gay Podcast, where we like to talk about the things that are weighing on our minds. My name is Michael. I am a chaser, and today I'm a sleepy boy because I was up until 3:30 in the morning writing a script.
Oh.
I wasn't planning that, but I kind of had a brainwave at like 12:30, and it just sort of went from there. So, good morning, sunshine.
You surf that brainwave, Michael.
Yeah, baby. I'm hanging 20.
My name is Don Marshall. I'm a big fat chubby guy living here in sunny Hollywood. And today, I hate to repeat, but I am also a very sleepy guy. I woke up about 10 minutes before our podcast, and I wasted 5 of it trying to pull a loaf of bread I baked last night out of the oven that just would not come out. And now I have 2 half loaves to share with everyone. So
It's as big as the interior.
I was
of your
imagining
oven.
the size of the oven. Yeah.
That's a huge slice of bread.
come on, we've all seen that I Love Lucy episode.
I'm Dan Oliverio, author, public speaker, and certified chubby chaser. I'm sorry, guys. I'm a morning person. Yes, I'm one of those horrible monsters who's just bright-eyed, bushy-tailed at 7 a.m. in the morning. Good morning.
Somebody take him down.
My name is Trevor Keyson. I am a super chub living here in West Hollywood, and I am married to the morning person, but I'm not a morning person.
Congratulations, Trevor.
We're so sorry.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Well, for our future listeners, our time travelers, listening to us for anthropological reasons, we are still in quarantine.
It's going to be a slow rollout of back to normal. There's a writer, comedian, general amazing person I follow on Twitter, JP Brammer, and he tweeted this morning. He's like, I was hoping for meats back on the menu, boys. Return to normal, but I think it's going to be a little more slow than that. Speaking of getting some meat from an app.
Finish the segue, Trevor.
So a listener sent this in BBC News. They were touting a new drug that will mark a new era in tackling obesity. And it's a drug, semaglutide, which I think is currently used to treat diabetes, but they're starting to use it to as an appetite suppressant to treat obesity.
Oh, thank God they're tackling it now. It's been so long.
And that's misleading because it's not really. There are appetite suppressants on the market. They're usually called methamphetamines, but that's not really the mechanism of action. But that's the downstream. That's the downstream effect. So it's a little misleading. But yeah, if you're trying to explain it to people who are looking for a new diet, then yeah, it's an appetite suppressant.
Yeah, basically, this falls into the camp of the war on obesity. It is being framed as a way to treat, I think, primarily to treat diabetes, especially when it comes to
and that's its original intent.
Insurance.
Yeah.
Well, and the original dosage. The weight loss aspect is apparently only occurs when you inject it as a much larger dosage than is currently used for anything.
And according to their trials, you just have to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Like which to me, it's like, okay, so I don't know. I guess there are some conditions where you just have to keep treating it with medication for the rest of your life. But to me, it sounds like
I have to take thyroid medication every single morning. If I skip it too long, I die. This is part of life.
I have a medication I have to take. So I guess I get that. But the other half of it that they bury in the article is that this drug, if it's not covered by insurance, is about $1,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And insurance historically does not tend to support weight loss drugs.
Well,
yeah,
but they were saying there's technically it's a diabetes drug, so maybe it'll be covered.
Right.
I think actually, there's 2 articles. There's the one from BBC, but then there's also one from New York Times that kind of goes deep, because the BBC one's like, finally, a cure for obesity. And the New York Times is like, okay, they're doing this study and actually here's all this other information about it, like the cost of the drug, that when people stop taking it, they regain the weight.
Yeah, it's really true to form that the BBC's article is really about how not to be a fat fuck, and the New York Times article is far more in depth and scientific and like, okay, it's an obesity, it's a diabetes drug, and at certain dosages it can also have dramatic weight loss effects through the mechanism of action, which is actually related to how you metabolize glucagon or glucose, glucagon, and insulin. So that's kind of interesting. But, BBC article, no, it's about how to stop being fat.
I think the biggest takeaway, and this is from the New York Times article, is the semaglutide study confirms what scientists already know. Willpower is not enough. In the new trial, participants who received the placebo and diet and exercise counseling were unable to see any significant difference in their weight.
It just makes me wonder, like, is there... I feel like this has to be something that's being researched and just not reported that well. But like, people talk sort of colloquially about a base weight, like as sort of a resting weight. That
a set point?
Yeah, just like where you kind of naturally fall. Yeah. Like all other things being equal, how much do you weigh? Like if you had the exact same lifestyle as the person next door, you're almost guaranteed not to weigh the same because.
That's called the set point.
Right. So is that... Like, at what point do you acknowledge that somebody is fighting that sort of natural place their body wants to stay?
Well, it's a complicated argument because you could make the argument that like, hey, your body's supposed to be this weight, you should be that weight. On the other hand, there's lots of conditions for which your body just wants to do that. Your body naturally wants to produce too many white blood cells and you get leukemia. Your body naturally wants to do this or that, the other thing. And we alter the course of that quote unquote natural internal process. So that's a squishy line. I will say this. I'm familiar with a lot of diabetes treatments and weight loss drugs through knowing a lot of fat people and also through bodybuilding and stuff like that. This is not that bad. Like this is a pretty gentle intervention pharmacologically. The bigger question, and that maybe the question that we're addressing on the show is like, well, is it's not, if it's not about weight loss, it's about health. Is there a moral difference for people? Like when we talk about people who are like, I want to take the drug because then I'll be less fat, or I want to take the drug because then I'll have better blood sugar numbers. We tend to have a prejudice as to which of those is a better reason. And I'm not here to tell you which one is the better one or not. I'm just saying that it tends to make a difference to us because so much of obesity is about blame. We want to blame people for being fat. And so it's very integral to it. It's like the whole argument with gay. Like, if you're gay because you were born that way, okay, we can accept that. But if you're gay because you chose to be gay, well, we have a huge problem with that. And I think that's part of the blame game that happens with fat. Yeah, because it is hard to argue like, okay, well, you're pre-diabetic and losing weight is going to help stem that, right? So what do you like? Okay, time to lose weight. On the other hand, I feel like there are a lot of people who, if they were to have a quote unquote normal experience at the doctor, would be told, by all accounts, you're perfectly healthy. Yeah. But they're also obese. Mm-hmm. And do those people also feel pressured or are straight up being instructed to lose weight anyway? That's the part that I feel like is also trying to scoop those people up. Absolutely. Because endemic in the BBC article is that weight loss equals health. That is absolutely incontrovertible. That's a premise of the entire article that goes unspoken.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, throughout my entire life, I was always very healthy for the most part. And I always had doctors tell me like, well, you're healthy now, but, and so because you're fat, eventually things are going to be terrible for you. And like, still, I've never had a whiff of diabetes.
Because then people stay healthy forever.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. I call that the wages of sin argument. Like God's going to get you, you may be fat and healthy now, but God's going to get you.
Yeah. So I get it. And it's always I always come back to there was a really bad X-Men movie where someone comes up with a pill where if you take the pill, you'll no longer be a mutant.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We just watched that the other day.
We did. And that's actually an interesting point because, if how much of one's identity is tied to fat to the extent that if you could be healthy and fat, you wouldn't change it. It's a lot of, when I was growing up, one of the arguments or one of the questions you got asked was like, if you could take a pill to not be gay, would you take it?
Right.
So it's kind of interesting where and I would talk to people who was like, if there was a pill to make me straight, I'd take that one every morning. Like there were people who would tell me that.
And I think it's an unfair question to ask of fat people. If there was a pill that would just make you magically thin, would you take it? Because it's one of those things where, like, if you ask me that on a Tuesday, I might say no. If you ask me that on a Thursday, I might say yes. I don't know.
Well, and who wouldn't want to take a pill that would make you get treated better?
That's exactly what it comes down to. It's like, I don't have any societal benefits from being fat at all. It doesn't mean that I hate being fat. It means that I hate being treated this way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's one of those things where, like, if someone offers me a pill that says, guess what? Your lifetime earning potential will go up 50%. You may get the job that they wouldn't look at you twice for. Sexual partners that wouldn't look at you for a second now may suddenly get interested. That pill's looking pretty good to me.
Exactly. And it reinforces what we already know, which is this has nothing ever to do with health. That's not what this is about, because you could take a drug to make you healthy, but it doesn't help you lose weight. And those don't seem to be terribly interesting to people.
Yep.
Right. We'll touch back on this later in our main topic. It all ties together. There's a Machiavellian scheme afoot. We have the podcast's favorite fat male actor comes back. I think we talked about this about a year ago about him being cast as Jasper.
Say his name.
Paul Walter Hauser as Horace in the live-action Cruella movie, starring Emma Stone, by the way, which I totally didn't realize until halfway through the trailer. They released the trailer, and it's this voiceover, and you don't see a lot of clear shots of her at first, I don't think, or maybe you do, and she just looks totally different. But I was hearing this like British accent, and I was like, "Oh, okay, who's this? Who is this? The voice is great." Oh,
it is so bonkers.
She does crazy so well. I love Emma Stone's crazy.
It's so, like, I love it. I had many concerns when this project was announced, because I'm like, okay, so we're gonna try to make the lady who skins puppies like fun. Like, it's gonna be yes, she skins puppies, but she's also fun, and she's not that bad. And I mean, they've kind of sold me, although I'm like, okay, but skinning puppies. I mean, I woke up the day the trailer came out. My friend messaged me and said, why is Cruella de Vil a Batman villain?
Oh my God, it's so true. It's so true.
And I was like,
she's always been a Batman villain.
No, but this is like she's in a Tim Burton Batman movie.
The point where, like, Cruella is presumably somehow releasing a bunch of bats at a party.
I mean, yeah.
I'm living for it. The director is the director of I, Tonya, which I'm excited about, but also a little nervous because Paul Walter Hauser in I, Tonya was kind of, his character was like, oh, he's fat, so he should always be eating. The audience needs to know that he's fat and stupid, so he's always going to be eating.
He has a lot more clout now, and I wonder if he'll be able to maybe exert himself a little bit more in this role and not have it be kind of a walking stereotype. Although he is playing, I mean, in the cartoon,
he's playing a comic character, so I don't have much hope for that.
You can't look to a fat comic character to produce change. That's just not.
And he's in a single shot in the trailer. I think he's in one shot pulling up in a car.
Yes,
and that's it. So we don't really have a sense of how the character's portrayed at all yet.
That's true. And he's not eating the car, so that's good.
That is true. He's not eating the car. He doesn't have, biscuits in his mouth. So I wonder if he's doing a British accent. I guess he must be. Doesn't he have like a Cockney accent in the cartoon?
He does. Yeah, I was going to try to do a Cockney accent in reply, but I kind of came up with like, he certainly does, which I know isn't. That's not right.
Like old timey New York.
It's like, from New Jersey. Yeah.
But I think I'm excited to see it. It looks batshit crazy and fun and
heavy on the bat.
When's it dropping?
May 28th.
I know this is a tangent, but since we're talking about shows, just to so you guys know how weird my brain is, you mentioned The Underdog, and that took me to the episode of Scrubs where Ted's band starts singing the theme song to The Underdog with Dr. Cox in the background. And I've been rewatching Scrubs, trying to anyway, because it was a show that I loved, back at the time that it was on, I think maybe early 20-teens. And with a new lens, like, holy crap, is that show fat phobic? It didn't really hit me at the time because I guess I wasn't paying that close attention. But oh my God, it doesn't have a whole lot of episodes about fat people or with, the plot device of a fat person because none of the main cast are fat. Maybe you could say Laverne is, but she's mostly just a comic side character.
Well, if you think about it, how few fat positive characters there have been, especially in comedy. And
yeah,
and in comedy is the only area you can get a fat protagonist that has any kind of actual arc, and even they're usually not treated that well.
No.
Well, again,
speaking of
foreshadowing of the later,
we're just when we get to the main topic, you're going to say, "Oh my God,
they're geniuses! They're geniuses!"
It's a tightly written script.
Speaking of fat positivity, we're
Watch,
going full speed into Fat Watch.
If only we had music for this.
If only we had video for this. You guys got to see Trevor dance to the Fat Watch theme. You'd love it.
Someday, maybe.
Live episode. Okay. Save it for that.
So this week, I'm kind of putting a spotlight on a Japanese body positive advocate named Barbie.
That's right.
Not that Barbie.
No, not that Barbie.
No, Metropolis Magazine, which is Japan's #1 English magazine, did a little feature on her, kind of talking about how she kind of rose to fame, or at least within the realm of body positivity, in August 2019 when she shared about basically not being able to get a bra that fits.
She posted pictures of her body being bruised by ill-fitting bras.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. It's really kind of disturbing, actually.
The article has that picture on it. It's that looks painful.
Which is revolutionary for any sort of media in Japan, because it's certainly not about body positivity and not about, these sort of photos. That's not the bread and butter that's usual there.
But she said, I tried so many bras and none of them fit well, so I'm going to make my own. May all boobs stand tall and confident every day.
Here.
And she did. And they're coming out. They actually, were February. They came out, I think, like last week. She worked with a company, Peach John, which is, they make bras, and basically approached them. And they're like, oh my God, we didn't realize that this is an issue that people face.
Well, what's interesting is when she posted that picture and the bruises and stuff, she got a ton of comments from women saying, "Oh my God, you mean it's not just me?" And all these
including a lot of direct messages from people who are too embarrassed to state it out loud on a post.
Absolutely, exactly, because it is that sort of, there's a very heavy mindset. I mean, we see this all over the world, but especially in places like Japan, where it is your responsibility to fit the clothes. It's not the clothes' responsibility to fit you. So it was a huge deal to go like, no, these clothes don't work for me. Actually, can we make different clothes? That was a huge thing to say, and the responses prove that. And so that's goes to your point, Trevor, about how a company founded on that idea of clothes fitting people is revolutionary and welcome.
It did make me appreciate a little bit more that, like, as much as I personally complain about the way fat people are treated in the US, the advancements that she's advocating in her writing and the things she's putting a spotlight on would be considered so benign. Like in the US, the fat phobic people here would so be like, no, well, even fat people deserve this stuff.
Yeah. Barbie also launched a YouTube channel after sort of this swell of support came up, and she addresses a lot of similar topics like contraception and period products and acne and things that she hopes she can be an educator for and just open up those like taboo discussions, which is quite brave because it really paints a target on your back. But I think is also like really, really important for people that need that kind of message.
So kudos, Barbie, fighting the good fight. Good for you.
Yay.
Yeah.
Which brings us to our main topic.
Dun, dun, dun.
We still don't have a main topic theme, do we?
No,
I don't know.
We got enough music.
We've got so much music.
I think the theme from Bonanza would be great.
Don't make my job
music.
harder. So today we are talking about, I mean, we've kind of hinted at the idea of like people losing weight and how they lose weight and why they lose weight. And I think recently, I actually don't even know when this happened, but Rebel Wilson lost a considerable amount of weight, and has done a couple interviews talking about that. And it kind of sparked this idea of like, what reasons people lose weight for and what their experience is when they do. Like, how does the world treat them?
So this kind of like, I don't know, press circuit of Rebel Wilson's weight loss started kind of in December and went into January. And I think it was interesting. So Don sent an article from Australia, news.com.au.
And she's from Australia, right?
Yes.
Yeah, she's Australian.
And kind of talking about her weight loss. And she was saying there's people in her life that didn't want her to lose weight. And just kind of going through
Specifically people in the industry she works with too.
Yeah. They wanted her to keep being Fat Amy, she says.
Yeah.
Her character on Pitch Perfect.
Yes. Which there was a few things like framing this story around like, just call her Fit Amy, which is, yeah, okay. One thing from the Australian article that kind of caught my attention was talking about, I was at my skinniest and I had malaria when I almost died. When I came out of the hospital, everyone said, wow, what did you do? I almost died.
Well, it's interesting because the Australian article is very much focused on, isn't it great that she got so healthy? Isn't it great?
Yes.
And she even makes the point inside there in that quote that like, just because you're smaller doesn't mean you're healthier. But that is absolutely the bent of the Australian news.com article. Mm-hmm. In contrast to the Glamour article, which has a very different framing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And she tries to walk the line between, her goal was to get healthier.
Yes.
I think that's how she's always framed it from the start, but also by measuring how much weight she lost. So she doesn't really pull those apart, but she also says like, I've always loved how I looked and been confident in how I look and how I feel. And, as the fatter version of me is the thinner version of me. I think she does have some good messaging in there that gets buried in these articles. Mm-hmm. And like Dan was mentioning the Glamour article,
basically what she gets into it is she discusses her own self-confidence and her own faith in her body as a control, right? She's basically saying, I feel the same now that I did then, but the way I'm treated now is so much significantly improved that it's hard not to notice other, it changes your self-image when you get that much more affirmation from the outside world that you have value.
I think one of the ways that the whole weight loss thing is not about health, that healthism is driving the conversation to look a particular way, is that when people talk about getting healthier, they never talk about the measures of health. Like they never say, I went on, I committed to health and now my A1C has dropped from 9.1 to 6.2. They don't talk about the measures of health. They talk about how much weight they lost, which is not a measure of health. And that's how you know it's not about health.
Yeah.
There are certain exceptions that, like people with diabetes, I always hear the discussion of blood sugar numbers going down.
Sure, but when you talk about when people say I committed to health, that is almost always followed up with a weight statistic, not a blood sugar statistic or an AST statistic or something like that.
Yeah.
When I think there's something to the vague messaging of I just feel so much better, I think you also see a lot in I mean, this is just we're not talking about I'm not talking about celebrities here. I'm talking about general weight loss stuff. When it's like, they lost 50 pounds, 75 pounds, 100 pounds, whatever. But they also then you see a difference in how they carry themselves and how they're even just styling themselves, which also I think is, if you're being treated better and people are nicer to you as a result of you now being worthy, you're going to feel better.
She talks about this directly. She talks about how she lost weight and all of a sudden people want to carry her groceries for her. She says, is this how it's always been for people?
Yeah.
Yeah. That comes up in the Glamour article where they also talk about Shonda Rhimes and Khloe Kardashian, who also both lost substantial amounts of weight, and talked about, now people talk to me on the street now. Like they don't, and Rebel Wilson talked about, like, people ignored her. Like, she's a very famous celebrity that people largely, maybe not largely, but often ignored or didn't notice because she was fat, and they just looked past her.
I've had similar experiences being bigger and smaller. Like, people just treat you better. You are considered more human when you're a smaller size. It's very frustrating, but it's very reinforcing to wanting to be that size. And I feel like one thing that I think people don't talk about very often is when you're a celebrity, a fat celebrity, there's this special double whammy that you get hit with, because people's prejudice brain are telling you need to lose weight, right? Because you're fat, and fat is bad, so you must lose weight. However, when you're a celebrity, people don't like you to change.
Nope. There's a commodity.
There's not only like the business people around you, but there's a certain comfort in your staying who you are, right? Like, I know you, I recognize this person. There are some other people whose careers have been severely changed or lost because of other changes not related to weight loss they've made to their appearance. Jennifer Grey, right? If anyone remembers her, she was the lead in the Dirty Dancing movie.
Oh, yeah.
Very iconic looking young woman, very pretty, big nose that she was very sensitive about. She went out, she got the nose job, and completely ended her career. Like, no, you never saw her again.
Do you think that was because of the nose job?
I 100% think because it's the nose job, because you can't recognize her. If you that changed her look because it's her face, right? Kumail Nanjiani, right? Very famous stand-up comic. He was on Silicon Valley, Indian guy or Pakistani guy. Recently, I think it was last year, released some pictures of himself having gotten completely shredded. Yeah. Right.
Oh yeah.
He's never been fat, but he just picked up a 6-pack and big pecs and defined arms. And people, there was an entire thing for a couple weeks by late night talk show hosts about how uncomfortable they were looking at this guy looking like that.
Well, so the reason he went through that transformation is because he was cast in a Marvel movie. He is going to be in the Eternals. And when we were talking about this topic in our little pre-recording call this week, Chris Pratt came up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because he went through a similar transformation when he was cast in Guardians of the Galaxy.
He has a different story, but I also feel like that's probably partially because he's a man. And also I didn't realize this, he fluctuated quite a bit. It wasn't just, so he was on Parks and Rec.
Yes.
And at some point during the run of the show, he got cast in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie. And as a Marvel superhero, he had to get very fit, and did so. What I didn't realize was when he got Parks and Rec, he was, I guess, whatever his average size was, gained weight just by coincidence over the first 2 seasons, and looked at himself and thought, I got fat, but also I've never been funnier. I'm going to get fatter. And then went to the showrunners and said, hey, I want to gain like 30 or 40 pounds. And they were like, okay. And so then he did so. And I didn't realize this when I was watching Parks and Rec, but apparently a fair amount of his comedy became about, like, maybe it was just on set, but like eating a lot. He tells a story about a scene that they had at a restaurant where he was just eating rack after rack of ribs.
Well, but that was
every take.
Yeah, that was on set, right? I don't think it was about his character eating 12 racks of ribs or whatever it was. but I think it was definitely, it became a game for the actor on set that like everybody would feed him and he would eat anything.
Well, yes, but that was in the shot. I mean, he was he was in the scene and didn't have lines. He literally thought it would be funny. Mm-hmm. Like that was his idea going into it, was it would be funny if I just ate a lot. And he would try and and he did get laughs out of it. So there's that. And then also had to go back down for the Marvel movies. And then, you know, he also talked about having to, I guess he did another loop like that when he got Zero Dark 30
and Moneyball.
So and he talks about how, I guess, unhealthy it was for him to be fluctuating that much, just like yo-yoing back and forth and up and down and up and down. I wonder if maybe it wasn't in the scope of the interview or if he just didn't have this experience, but he never really talks about how people treated him, except that people still found him like engagingly funny while he was fat. Like the experience of being treated better. And maybe it's because he was never really very, very fat, like maybe Hollywood fat, but he wasn't like Rebel Wilson compared to Rebel Wilson now.
Well, I also wonder how much of it was connected to, he was playing the man-child archetype on that.
Yeah.
And being kind of chubby is, I think that's synonymous with the man-child. Like you're not supposed to be ripped when that's your type. So
Chris Pratt to me, so as a chaser, my view of all of this was literally like, wait, his weight changed? Like I literally didn't notice. People had like, I didn't notice any difference, maybe in his face a little bit. But otherwise it did not register with me that he was any different weight at any point in his career.
You got to be this wide to ride.
Right. Like it doesn't. And so when we talk about
make
like
a blip on your radar,
it super didn't. So I think other people are watching this a lot closer in some ways. And I don't think he had to deal with the same prejudices that the other people we talked about did.
Yeah.
Who is the actor in? Jonah Hill. He's talked about this a lot too. And he is so actually. What do we know? Where he's at these days? Because he's bounced back and forth a lot,
like by hundreds of pounds. Yeah,
yeah, like significant amounts. And he's also talked about how it affected his career and like, especially that weird in between place of like, if you're not the fat funny guy, but you're not the fit leading man. You're somewhere in between. And I feel like it's interesting because I feel like a lot of people in the chub bear world also have talked about being in between archetypes.
That's really good, Michael. I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah. If people can't pin you with a label, like if they don't have an easy way to categorize you and sort you, then they don't know how to look at you. And he's certainly talked about that, especially in acting, like people get typecast. That's basically how you make a career for yourself, is by finding a way to get typecast. And then you get lots of work doing that type. But if you change your type, or at least your perceived type, it becomes much harder. So I'm actually curious.
People don't like change. Yeah.
People don't like change and they don't want you to.
Well, so much of Hollywood is designed around the idea that talent is a commodity. The William Morris Agency, the CAA, they're organized as there are warehouses of talent, and they need to be able to send out this cadre of talent the way you send out soybeans to Iowa or corn to California. I mean, that's their job. And so if you start changing corn into soybeans, people get really upset.
It's basically it.
It's a farm system. And it was even called the farm system at one point, I think, in Hollywood.
I'm curious, do we have any anecdotal stories about people we know who have lost weight and what the world feels like to them, like people that we know personally?
Me. I've lost huge amounts of weight and gained it.
What was your, do you mind if I ask, like, what was your general, like, by how much, I guess?
Oh, my biggest size was about 120 pounds more than I am now. And my smallest size was about 100 pounds less than I am now.
So
that's a
quite
big
a wide
variation.
range. Yeah, that's a lot.
This has been my happy medium for the past 10 years or so.
And what's your takeaway, Don?
Oh, it's just, there's no comparison. Like, the world was just nicer to me when I was smaller, period. There's no specific to go into because there was no area of my life that didn't get easier. I'll be honest. That's just the way it is.
The reason I'm asking you talked a lot about how, on the podcast, you've talked about sort of your evolution coming to terms with your body, and yet your body has changed a lot. Like a 200-pound range. So I'm wondering,
because I've been fighting it every step of the way.
Well, that's kind of my question is, so, because you have there are kind of two variables there. There's how you feel about your body up and down a 200-pound range. And then there's how other people treat you up and down your 200-pound range. You've got, and in having two variables changing simultaneously, I would assume, I just what do you observe about that? Is there something to say about that?
I feel like I'm in an interesting place to talk about it right now because of the quarantine, right? I haven't been interacting with the world at large for the past year.
I know what you mean.
And my weight is not in my face, right? My weight is in my body. And so with my main focus of communication being Zoom focused on my face, I feel like I'm becoming less sensitive about the way I'm treated by people because I'm not being treated by people in any way. Right. So I'm left to be thinking about my body in the vacuum of myself. This is getting really weirdly heady. I have no idea if it's going to be interesting to anyone,
I totally get what you say, because what you're saying is if you take other people's reactions out of the equation, you can hear your own reactions. You can hear your own reactions.
Yeah. If I'm just sort of existing in my own headspace, I'm okay with me, right? I get frustrated because some of my clothes don't fit right, but by and large, that's not even a major issue, right? It's me living my life and just, I'm fine with me. When you start putting me into a situation where I have to, part of my job is I have to impress people. I have to make connections with people. I have to make people want to work with me.
Right.
And I have always found it's easier to do it over the phone than live. I'm sure there's a reason.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it.
So removing those interactions has made my self-esteem equalize, right? Rather than be on this sort of roller coaster of crap. Okay, I'm being made feel bad by the world. Time for me to pick up my own ego, drag it back up to a happy place. Okay, now I can focus on something else. And then the world starts treating me and the ego starts going down again. It has been an interesting experience to make me understand that I am more okay with me than I realized.
That's pretty cool.
Right? That is pretty cool. But it also makes me miss the days of interaction and dread them. When the world starts again, I'm going to get to see the people I love again, but it's also going to come with all that extra baggage of seeing the people that don't love me again.
Right.
You
go back to being the big fat guy in the room instead of the interesting talking head on Zoom call.
Exactly. And so, like I said, with celebrities, I feel like they have it even worse because they're fat. The world believes they need to change and tells them they need to change. And then when they do the change, people resent them because the celebrity is supposed to stay who you know.
Why do you change?
Why did you change?
Yeah. So it's this weird double kick in the ass for people.
Yeah.
And, with me, when I lost weight, I got so much positive reinforcement from people in my life that it made me think, oh, well, they didn't actually like me when I was at my larger size, right?
I've heard that
positive reinforcement became a signal that I was not approved of at that other point.
I hear that over and over again from so many fat people, Don. Absolutely.
And knowing my friends, that is horseshit. I am aware that that's utter bullcrap, but your knowledge of truth versus your experience of it are not always well connected. So,
but I think there is something to, if all of a sudden Rebel Wilson experiences people wanting to carry her groceries and she didn't before, that's not because she didn't notice people carrying her groceries before. People do have these prejudices and they leak out, even close friends. And I don't even think they're in, and I don't mean your close friends, I mean in general.
Yeah.
But I think that people have these expectations and prejudices that they're unconscious of.
Which are total bullshit. I'm going to try very hard to make it very clear that I'm not equating these two experiences at all. Disclaimer, I'm not saying this is the same. An example, a minor dumb example of the way that people perceive you being total bullshit is when I was about 22, I got glasses for the first time. Like I didn't have them. And then I got these black framed hipster glasses and started wearing them. And people random strangers out in the world were much friendlier, like more, I think they saw me as more accessible. I don't know why, but I got a lot more random engagements from the people I saw out in the world. And then I would test the theory and go out without glasses, and it would be completely different. I'm not saying they're the same experience. It's like people's perception of you can be changed by the dumbest, most innocuous things.
I have to say, so Michael, Michael around that time with his style and everything, you went from Superman to Clark Kent. Because it just, with how your hair was and everything, your glasses definitely made you more like, gee, Lois, what do you think? Superman is up to right now?
That is true.
More people want to talk to Clark Kent than Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, when he wears the glasses, the word golly coming out of his lips would not surprise anyone.
Well, golly.
And then Michael takes them off and goes, Lois?
And my voice gets an octave deeper. No, people's perception of who you are and how they can interact with you is totally cosmetic. And should not be that way. But that's just how, and of course, fat people get the short end of the stick there because that's the most obviously cosmetic thing that you can't just take off. You can't just take off your fat. Like, you live with it. And I think that you also get treated the worst compared to any other version of it. Maybe not any version. I don't know what disabled people have to deal with, but
I think the biggest takeaway is we need to realize, and like all of us, because I know I'm guilty of this too. People contain volumes. People are ever changing. And I think we're going to kind of really see this when we go back to, quote unquote normal. It's not going to be normal, but it's going to be the new normal. Like, I think everyone's going to be different, and I think it's going to be a rough adjustment because people are going to try to go back and interact with people in the same way. And we're all people have had more time for introspection and
stay tuned, listeners. I think we're going to do a show on this eventually.
Spoilers. This is more foreshadowing.
I have a prediction.
Yes.
That when we go back to living our quote unquote normal lives, it's going to suck being fat for a little while, worse than ever, because all of these people are going to be coming back from quarantine obsessing about their own bodies and lashing out at everyone around them. And if they can hang their issue up on other people with fatter bodies, they're going to do it. So this is entirely my opinion. I have no scholarly background to pull from this other than observations of human behavior. So when we come back to everything, be ready to take a few deep breaths and remind yourself that any bullshit coming your way may not have anything to do with you. It may have things to do with people dealing with their own bullshit and not being able to, so they're trying to take it out on other people around them.
Yeah,
just
and
be ready. That
really is, any time if you've ever gotten shade at a bar because of your weight, which happens sometimes, unfortunately, it's if you ever get these weird glances or stuff, it's always people's own issues. I know that doesn't help when you're at the receiving end of being insulted or having a microaggression, but it's their issue. They can't help it. Well, or they can, but they don't.
Yeah. Well, I'm just bracing for the end. My little sister was saying the other day that, the longer quarantine has gone on, the more that she has started talking to random strangers and really missed the connection with people that she didn't used to do. And I'm like, nope, I am the total opposite. The longer this has gone on, I'm just stay away from me. I don't want
Michael's going to be feral, and we're going to have to use one of those animal things and get it around his neck and drag him outside.
Okay, so we have to bring a bag of treats and a clicker the next time we get together with Michael. All right, I got it.
They'll take a
He's
bag
going to
of
start
treats.
thrashing around like an alligator, spinning around.
Fuck treats. Here's a bottle of scotch.
All right.
I'll
Anything
take
more?
it.
I mean, I don't know. I kept thinking about this and I couldn't really figure out how to, I think this may be a bow for everything.
Give us your bow.
So Renee Zellweger, this was a few years ago. People probably remember. So not only did Renee Zellweger, I feel like her weight's kind of fluctuated. And I think partially in such too, I think for when she would do Bridget Jones movies, she would gain weight. But people would give her flack for that and she'd lose it. But she had plastic surgery.
Yeah.
And I mean, she always got criticism, but the criticism she got for her plastic surgery, which she looked so different afterwards. She did and she didn't.
She's got she had such a distinctive face before that it was really hard to recognize her. Like, it wasn't that she looked better or worse, it was just she looked very different.
Yes.
I thought.
And then this was before the final Bridget Jones, hopefully the final Bridget Jones movie. I think basically all of the leads in that got criticism for their appearance, but it's like it had been 20 years almost since the last movie. And I think we need to just be kinder. I mean, I feel stupid saying we need to be kinder to celebrities. That's not the takeaway here.
They're people. Yeah.
They're people. And just I think that because celebrities are just these people that are just, I don't know, that we all see and just kind of look at okay, use the example of Rebel Wilson changing as people change, people fluctuate, and just I don't know, be chill and I don't know, it's foreshadowing, be chill as we leave this pandemic.
Take a breath. Calm the fuck down.
Yeah. And wait for Michael to have a little lull and sense of calm before you snare him and drag him outside.
Oh dear.
What training treats should we use for you, Michael? What is a Michael treat?
I think a good you could grab a handful of peanut M&Ms.
Oh, okay. That's and it works as a clicker too. You shake them.
Yeah, you could do a shake bag.
If Michael's being bad, you shake the bag at him.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you guys a question as our bit today.
Ooh. Okay.
Actually two questions. So a lot of this was talking about physical perception versus getting to know people, or those are big factors in it. So I'm curious. I have two questions for you. What celebrity crushes do you have on people that are not your type, right? You look at them physically, that's not who you're into, but then they open their mouth and something about who they are or their skill set or something about them makes them kind of sexy to you for some reason. And on the flip side of that, what celebrity crushes do you, or what celebrities did you see go immediately oh, that's my type, and then have them open their mouth and ruin everything?
I have my answers.
Okay.
Oh man.
Dan, lead us off.
So of course, been watching a lot of TV during pandemic, and Trevor will tell you I have a pretty high libido to begin with, and being cooped up inside is not exactly diminished that. So I find my tongue rolling out continually for all these hot guys on television, and they're not my type. And so I think right now my two top, and again,
so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. So Michael Shanks from Stargate SG-1. Oh my God. I just can't, you'd probably have to pull him up. Just sort of classic, good looking Canadian. I think he's Canadian. But just really, really gorgeous. And the character helps because the character is this sensitive scholar, this sensitive archaeologist and epigrapher. So yeah, that's totally hit it with me.
Oh, he was the one I thought was cute in that cast.
Oh,
too.
totally.
Yeah.
And then a lot of good things to say about that show, but I'll move on. And then the other crush that I'm having right now is Trevor is having us rewatch Heroes, and the younger brother of Peter Petrelli.
Milo Ventimiglia.
Gorgeous, just gorgeous. Yeah. And again, I think it has a lot to do with the personality. They're totally not my type physically. My type physically that of course gets ruined is I'm a huge fan, as many chasers are, of Greg Grunberg, who is on Heroes and Star Wars and a bunch of other shows. He plays the cop on Heroes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, J.J. Abrams' friend.
If you say so. Okay. And I also had a distant, I worked with a man who was friends with both of the Grunberg brothers. And I'm like, oh my God, you could introduce me. Oh my God. Like Tong, just total fangirl. And he's like, yeah, but he's way straight. I mean, he'll appreciate it, but he's way straight. I'm like, oh God damn it.
Well, Dan, your second one, it's supposed to be someone that you're like, you found them attractive, but then I think you were repulsed by their behavior or like.
Yeah, he's straight.
Yeah.
Okay.
Straight people repulse Dan. We understand.
It's just like it's a no-go. I'm not, okay. Wop, wop, wop.
Trevor, do you have someone in mind?
I have someone in mind for, I guess like a kind of crush. I mean, because I just have such a wide, I feel like range of types I like, but like just, I don't know, I had a thought the other day that I feel like this will be an appropriate answer. So Catherine Hahn, actress, who I'm watching WandaVision. I'm not going to talk about it because Michael hasn't seen it.
Thank you.
But oh my, especially after the last episode,
yeah, is she the one playing
the neighbor?
The neighbor. Yeah. Oh, she's great. I love her.
Wonderful actress who I realize I have mixed up with Anna Gasteyer.
Yes, very easy to do. Very easy to do.
But I was like, I would let her murder me if she stab me to death if she laughed while doing it.
She is a talent that is not been nearly recognized enough. Just amazing, especially after the last episode that just aired.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But okay, so a woman, not your type, but
because I mean anyone I can think of.
But her sheer force of personality has overcome her vagina for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I'm saying she can murder me. That's and then someone
obviously I'm not letting her near Trevor.
Yeah, someone who I was attracted to that repulsed me. I'm trying to think of celebrities because I'm just.
I know real people.
Yeah.
That's probably best not to discuss on our podcast.
Yeah, I guess come back or I'll just
can I ask what if somebody that is your type you're into, but they you're not repulsed by them? I'm just curious, like because you know that when we're watching television, I'm like, oh my God, look at him. I never hear you say that, so I'm curious who that is for you.
Well, okay, I have an example that's I don't know because. I definitely have a so sitcoms. What's it called? Step by Step.
Cody.
Yes. The himbo. I like I like himbos, but I don't like that I like himbos.
Perfect.
And like he is, I think, the best example of like just like peak himbo, just like
his character.
So dumb.
Yeah. His character is Cody, and the actor's name is Sasha something.
He's the one who ended up like being outed as a domestic abuser.
Yeah.
Wasn't he?
Oh, he is terrible. Okay, I'll go with him then.
Yeah. So Michael,
I struggle with this one because I fall into the camp of there are a lot of celebrities that I probably should find attractive, but just kind of don't.
But then who
kind of like vaguely attractive, like okay, sure,
like chubby celebrities or mainstream.
Yeah, just like fat celebrities that you would think that I would find attractive. I'm kind of like,
I know who you. I get this a lot. I know who you.
Yeah. So as far as the playing against type, I'm gonna follow Trevor's lead actually and say Natalie Portman. For some reason, like I have no real strong desire to like go take her out, but like I just find her like magnetizing, and I just want to like be around her and like talk to her and like I don't know. I could see like a really late night intimate setting where we could just have like pillow talk would be like unbelievable. As far as I don't know. I don't really have a lot of big celebrity crushes for previous. I think there's one. This is not like a total like completely repulsed thing, but I hate this because we just talked about him. But Paul Walter Hauser.
Oh yeah.
I find him fairly cute, But I saw an interview with him where he was talking. This is when we were talking about him a few months ago, where he talked about how he got the role on Richard Jewell, and he goes into this whole long thing about, well, you know, as a Christian, I just have faith that things are going to work out for me, and you know that God has a plan. And that was like immediately. I don't have anything against people who have a strong faith. I mean, 2 of my exes are both devout Christians, but that presentation of it was just sort of an immediate like that. It was like it was a hit to the fantasy.
Just
I guess.
To turn off.
Yeah, it was no Natalie Portman. I'll tell you that.
It was exactly. Well, she's Jewish, so like, I can relate to that. What about you, Don?
Oh, so the 2 I'll discuss, it's weird. This is maybe a weird example, but I think I can explain it well. I like both of them personally, right? And both of them are physically attractive, but I both had radically different reactions to both of them. The lead 2 actors from the Supernatural TV show.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Jared Padalecki and Jensen Ackles, right? When I first started watching the show, I didn't know either of them as actors, so I was mostly assessing them as sort of as their character. Jared Padalecki was much more my type physically, and he was playing the bookish brother, like the nice one, the sensitive one. Totally, that's my personality type. I love him. Yum. And he was physically gorgeous. And then the guy playing his brother, Jensen Ackles, was playing the bad boy, right? Beautiful, but kind of dumb, but aggressive, sort of hyper masculine. Not my type at all. But as the series went on, the acting skill set of the 2 actors swapped my opinions. In that Jared Padalecki, God bless him, sweet guy. In the real world, he sounds like an amazing, good-hearted person. I cannot watch that man act. He's so bad. He has 3 facial expressions, and his whenever anyone says anything to him in a scene, roll the dice. You've got a 40% chance he's just gonna huff and roll his eyes as the reaction. Doesn't matter what the content of the scene is. That's what his reaction's gonna be.
It works for him, I guess.
On the flip side of that, Jensen Ackles played that sort of 2-dimensional stereotype character at the beginning with such sensitivity and depth and thought to everything he did that seemed sort of so cartoonish was done so earnestly and with a dedication to it that I was like, oh, you charming little thing. He completely won me over to the point where at the end of the series, I was putting up with Jared Padalecki so that I could watch more Jensen Ackles. It was a very interesting switch for me.
That's a great love story. I like that.
So if any listeners out there have connections to any of these people we've mentioned, please write us in. Where can they do that, Trevor?
Yeah. Tell Catherine Hahn she can murder me at the following places. We're on Instagram and Twitter as @BigFatGayPod. We're on Facebook as the Big Fat Gay Podcast. Leave us 5 stars in a review there. Apple Podcast 2. We've gotten some new reviews, which is always lovely to see.
Yay.
Stitcher's its own thing, but maybe you listen there. See the articles we talked about at www.bigfatgaypod.com. And that's a wrap.
Yay. Good job.
Yay.
Maybe you're Catherine Hahn and you're slowly sneaking up behind me with a knife to murder me as I requested earlier in the episode. So it looks like I better...
Look out!
One of these days, I want to do the setup and have Trevor shout "Look out!" Can we make that happen?